to feel chaos in our life. Okay, good. We're recording now. Okay. Beseder. It's Beseder. Everything is from Hashem. So an example would be like this. I could come here and think to myself that technology is in my hands. This class is in my hands. And imagine it's my first class in Eretz Yisrael, my first class teaching here, all brand new people. So excited to see all of you here. We have a lot of people here. We have a lot of people online. So I might spend, 20 minutes, a half an hour, 45 minutes trying to set it up, it not working, and feeling tremendous chaos, anxiety, pressure. I start sweating. I have many layers of clothing because I'm religious now. So for some reason we did that. And then we also live in Israel. I'm not sure how that whole thing came together. They should think that whole one. No, but I'm serious. How do you guys not so hot? I'm looking at everybody outside. The whole religious getup, I wear it now too. I asked my wife, I said, they're not sweating. How are they not sweating? It's so hot. I said, trust me, they're sweating. So that would be low beseder. But if I come in and I realize everything is from Hashem, so whatever is happening is whatever Hashem wants to be happening. That means just start the class and we'll see what happens. And that's a whole different experience. That's a whole different half an hour. That's a whole different 45 minutes. And when I leave here, that's a whole different afterwards. Yeah? I could either go home and start ruminating all night about how my first class was a failure. I couldn't get on and teach it. I couldn't get on and record it, like many people do in many different ways in their life. Or say it's from Hashem, and that's it. Now, this is something that was very paradigm shifting because it takes so much pressure off. Because you don't have to make things happen. You just have to become a receiver of it happening. There's a story that Rabbi David Aaron gives in that book, and he explains the first time he went to a Hasidic shul, and he goes in and he sees this very short Rabbi, and everyone's surrounding him, hundreds and hundreds of Hasidim, and they come in and they have no idea what this is, and all of a sudden the rabbi points to them and tells them to come in. So they're looking at each other, these two friends. They don't know what's going on. They're secular Jews from Canada. They're now in Israel, and they're being pushed in now by all the Hasidim into the Rebbe. Pushed. They're trying to move away. They got pushed to the Rebbe. They said, no. The Rebbe asked for you, you go in. So now they're by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe all of a sudden takes out an apple and lifts it up. And they're looking at each other like, where are we? What's going on right now? So they try to move and just leave. And the Hasidim push them back in. They put them back into the middle. So now they're getting frustrated. And they figure that what the rabbi wants is that they take the apple. So they take their hand and they swipe to try and get the apple. He pulls the apple away. Okay? They're like, enough. We don't want to be here anymore. They start to walk out. The Rebbe points at them again, starts pushing them in towards the middle. Now they're getting very upset. Now they did a quick to try and get the apple. Again, took it away. He starts to get upset. Now he's starting to go into Yeush, into despair. He doesn't know there's no Yeush. He puts his hands like this. He doesn't know. Puts his head down. And all of a sudden the apple drops into his hand. The Rebbe knew that he was secular. The Rebbe knew he didn't know who Hashem was. And he was trying to teach him the most important lesson in life. You are not here to get the apple. You're here to receive the apple. You're not here to create life. You're here to experience life. And this is the lesson for each and every one of us. That even though every day we have to do ishtadlut and we have to try the best that we can, at the same time we have to live a somewhat schizophrenic life and know the whole entire time we do not control anything. And this is the difference between living a life of tranquility and living a life of chaos. Just to give an example, my grandmother, I found out, she started to get sick recently. My dad told me. And the food that she was eating was not going through the right tube. I don't even know how this happens. And was starting to enter into her lungs. They had to take her to the hospital to hook her up to different machines. She became unstable. So if my dad would have contacted me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have started to search on Google, what is this disease? Look up every single possible option, and then look up how this gets better, and then sit by my phone sweating and just losing my mind, watching as my grandmother deteriorates. And instead, as soon as she told me she's sick, I know that I can do two ways. It's either be beseder or lo beseder. Lo beseder, it's the doctors are in control of her life now, and B'ezrat Hashem, she went to a good hospital, and they're going to figure it out. Beseder is that she's sick now. If everybody could just put this on mute, hope you're off mute.
Cindy, how far
Thank
are
you.
you away? We're
So the other way is that she's sick because Hashem wants her to be. And she's swallowing her food and it's going into her lungs, unfortunately, because Hashem wants that to be happening. So what is the only sensible thing to do if Hashem's the cause of that? To pray. So I told my dad I'm going to go to the kotel tomorrow. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay. Now it's very interesting because growing up, my dad and my parents used to be the one who were always emotionally encouraging me. Sometimes, Baruch Hashem, I find it's the opposite now. And I'm standing at the kotel, I'm praying for her. And as soon as I'm done at the kotel, I get a text from my dad. Your grandmother's getting much better. Thank you for praying. Keep praying. But that's Beseder, and that's the whole point. Okay? So really, it is to say, like Rabbi Nachman says in the fourth lesson of the Quran, that if a person understands that every single thing that takes place in his life is from Hashem and for the best, he has a taste of Olam Haba now. And he says you don't need to wait until you get there to experience it. You can eat from that orchard right now. How do you do that? The only way to do that is to talk to Hashem. If you'll notice, the word for an event or the word for an object is also davar. It's the same exact word as speech. What's the reason? What's the connection? I had a chidush that maybe because every single event that takes place is Hashem talking, right? Hashem speaks the world into existence. Every event that's taking place is Hashem causing. So how do you cause your life to be Beseder? You need to speak to Hashem about what's taking place. And when you speak to Hashem about what's taking place, the primary thing that you're trying to internalize is that Hashem is the cause of what's taking place. Because the whole difference between a life, like Rav Shalom Arush says, of Gan Eden or Gehenna, which are right next to each other, is emunah. And emunah is not some theoretical belief. It's not something that you even learn in yeshiva. Emunah is tefila, Rabbi Nachman says. Emunah is prayer. If you want to believe more in Hashem, talk more to Hashem. You want to believe more than that? Talk more. I'm already talking a lot. So speak more honestly. I already speak honestly. So you have to add energy to how you talk. But whatever it is, the more that you focus on tefillah as your main orientation to your life, to that degree you're going to experience that Hashem is in control, that everything is beseder. So this is the first example. Okay? And I want to give another practical example, and thank God that my father-in-law, his English is not perfect, so I'm going to speak about his daughter for a second. Don't tell her I said it. I had an experience once. We got into a fight. And then, not a physical one, a verbal one. We hadn't gotten into one for a long time. She wouldn't mind that I'm telling you this. We hadn't gotten into one for a long time. But as many men know, or many women know, sometimes when you don't get into one for a long time, the next one is the worst one you ever had. Okay? So this was a very bad one. And I remember thinking at that point, and this happens a lot, that you finally feel like you figure things out in your life. And all of a sudden, in one moment, everything comes crumbling down. And I get into a very large fight with my wife. She leaves. She says, I don't want to talk anymore. And she says, I'm going to sleep. So we grew up very different. She's Yemenite. She's Israeli. Their speaking is fighting. Every time I hear her dad talking, I get nervous because I feel like he's yelling, but he's really just talking. For me, the way that I am, in my family growing up, we were Ashkenazi, we were secular, we're American, we're very docile, we're very passive-aggressive, we hold everything in, we don't say it out loud, then it blows up, and then you have to fix the problem right away. If you don't fix the problem right away, there's a big problem. Okay, so I used to stay up all night with my family until we hashed it out, no matter how bad the fight was. But my wife's very comfortable to just go to sleep and we'll figure it out the next day. Everything's fine. Beseder. So she went to sleep and I sat in my chair. And instead of in the past, start to think about what's wrong with me. Why did I do that? How did I keep doing that? Why do I keep messing up like that? Like we so often do. So that's lo beseder. I had so internalized at this point that the reason we got into a fight is because Hashem wanted us to. And the reason why my wife went to sleep now and hasn't figured it out with me, and I'm sitting here now, sobbing and picking up the pieces, is because Hashem wants me to be. So now, what's the benefit of this? That I could say to Hashem, what can I learn from this? What are you trying to get me to learn? What do you want to tell me right now? And then all of a sudden, it's a whole different thing. Because otherwise, it could be hours and hours of me thinking about what's wrong with my wife. And instead, it quickly shifted from my wife, and I figured out how I can be better. And I realized very quickly that I am very insecure. And that's the reason why I'm in such pain right now. And it's not because my wife did something to me. It's because I am insecure. And now I could start to pray to Hashem, Hashem, please help me to believe in myself. And that prayer has stayed with me now for years. And that prayer has changed my life. All of that came from this teaching of Seder or Lo Beseder. Because I could have easily picked up the fight when I woke up, and it could continue now for years later. But instead, I had one moment of internalization of Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and I'm already closer to tranquility. Okay? One lesson.
You're having a quantity of 180.
Michael, you don't need to hear the pharmacy deals you're doing right now. If you could put yourself on mute, that would be great.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you so much. I want to tell you that I have a lot of chizuk right now, that you're in a pharmacy right now, and you're learning from the Rebbe's pharmacy. Thank God. Good to see you, Mike. Your hair looks good. Okay. Second, ready? This is another big paradigm shift for me. Besides thinking that I control my life, which obviously you guys know, I don't think I control my life anymore. The second thing is that I thought that I knew everything. Now, lest you think that you don't think that, you probably do think that, okay? And that's a source of a lot of pain. Part of the reason why chaos is so chaotic is because we think we control it. I actually have a friend in Eretz Yisrael. It's very interesting. He told me he has a lot of anxiety, but when he gets stuck in traffic, and he can't move at all, and even if he's late for an important business meeting or something, he starts to go into a state of complete serenity. And I said to him, what's the difference? This situation's worse. He said, because I know I can't do anything. And I said, why do you not think that's not like the rest of your life? Why do you think the rest of your life is any different? Because he realizes he cannot do anything about it, he starts to feel at peace. So to heal, I want to explain something that Rabbi Nachman teaches. In the first lesson of Likutei Moharan, he begins with a pasuk from Tehillim, and he says, Ashrei tamimei derech. Happy is a person whose way is perfect, or in the case that he teaches it is simple. Achochim b'torat Hashem. He walks with the Torah of Hashem, which he explains there is by being simple, he gets to experience why Hashem is doing what he's doing, the chokhmah of the situation. Where is the light and the goodness of Hashem in any given situation in my life? The way that I experience that is through complete tamimus, through complete simplicity. How does Rabbi Nachman explain it there? He says it's like the sun and the moon. You want to connect to the sun at nighttime. How do you connect to the sun at nighttime? Or how do you connect during daytime? Can you look directly at the sun? No. But the sun's good for you. It gives you vitamin K. I think that's the vitamin it gives you. And it gives you vitamin D. Okay. I saw something vitamin K on it. That's what it was. It gives you vitamin D. Very good. It gives you a nice tan. It makes you feel good. Yeah. It's better for mental health for sure. It's good for the weather. And the list goes on and on. It gives nutrients. It causes life for everything. But you can't look directly at it. So Rabbi Nachman says it's just like Hashem. You cannot see Hashem in anything in your life. Not because it's so hidden, but because it's so intense that you can't see it. Because it's so intense that you can't see it. So then what can you do? How can you experience Hashem? How do you get closer to Hashem? He says it's the holy car of your life is to do it. How do you do it? So he says, what's the only thing in the physical world that receives all the light of Hashem perfectly and is able to give it off to everything else in a way that benefits it? The Levanah, the moon. And Rabbi Nachman brings the Zohar that says, what's so special about the moon that it can receive all the light of the sun, which is a mashal for us? What's so special about a Jew that he can receive all of the light of Hashem? That the moon has no light of its own. This is what the Zohar says.
Dad,
Because the moon has no light of its own,
listen, your
it can receive all the light of the sun. Jerry, if you could put yourself on this, that would be great.
dad.
Thank you.
But then what about me playing music? Like if you
there's
asked
a
me to play music
All right,
on
listen
my
to
own
me and then
phone,
we'll listen.
Okay, Jerry.
it's like to
Okay, Dolly,
then you
volume's
can
off. Thank you. Okay, so
I'm gonna talk.
like this.
I can talk.
He's lying from Israel, though. That's why
The moon, yes, the moon.
I'm surprised
Good.
to see it.
So why is the moon so special? Because by having nothing of its own, it can actually receive everything from the sun. So too, Rabbi Nachman says, for you to experience the chokhmah, why the things take place that take place, which is really going to be the cause of your having tranquility, you must first remove the idea that you know what's going on or can't understand what's going on. Okay? What do we usually do? We try as hard as possible to figure it out. And what is one of the blessings and one of the curses that Hashem gave us? Jewish people are very smart. And one of the benefits of this is we're able to be very advanced in many fields and in many different ways. One of the drawbacks of this is it leads us to believe that we understand what's going on in a cosmic sense, or we understand what's going on in our own life. But the way that Rabbi Nachman says that you get to experience why things are taking place is actually a complete opposite paradigm. You are not trying to understand what's happening. You are actually completely releasing your ability. You're saying, you're acknowledging, I do not understand, and it's okay. And it's at that moment that you get to experience understanding. It's very similar to like
This is really
trying to
wisdom.
figure out
You
a
want to
math
hear
or a
it?
science problem.
Okay.
You're trying so hard. and you
Talking
can't
about
figure it out.
philosophy of
And all of a
understanding.
sudden you go to sleep, and then it
Want to
just
hear about
pops
Rabbi
into your head.
Nachman's thing a little bit?
Why is that? Because at that moment, you stop trying.
How do we do it?
So too with us. When we want to experience where is Hashem in my life, Rabbi Nachman says you need to do the opposite of what you think you should. You think you should sit and try and understand and try and figure it out, to do hibonanut. Okay? That is to contemplate what's happening. Rabbi Nachman says don't try to contemplate what's happening because you're going to be wrong. Because Rabbi Nachman explains that we all see Hashem through the eyes of the powers of our own imagination. And until those powers of imagination are pure, which takes tremendous amount of spiritual work, then every time you try to experience what's happening to you, you're going to get the wrong message. You're going to attribute it to the wrong thing. And it's going to cause a state of internal chaos. Internal chaos, not external. That was something different. So what's an example of this? So an example of this that I thought of today, as well in my quoted. My Rabbi, Rav Walken Zal, his neshama should have an aliyah, passed away during COVID. He told us a story. I remember it was right after I got out of the psych ward, so I was in a very vulnerable state. And I don't know about you guys, but when you first become Baal Tshuva, you think that every Torah lesson you're going to learn is going to be the one you need to hear to get over the hump. And you're just dying and hoping and begging and praying to Hashem. This Torah lesson is the one that I'm going to get the message that I need. So I'm sitting there, and he's telling us a midrash. And the midrash says that when Rabbi Akiva was sitting there and his skin was getting flayed off his body with iron combs. A very interesting midrash. And it says there that the Malachim started to ask Hashem, how can this be the end of Rabbi Akiva's life? Rabbi Akiva was secular. He became Baal Tshuva. He hated rabbis. He wanted to bite them, the Chazal say. And he ended up becoming a teacher of tens of thousands of Jewish people. And literally the only reason why Judaism exists, and we believe in Hashem to this day, is because Rabbi Akiva did what he did. How is the end of his life such a brutal, such a horrifying, such a chaotic experience? And Hashem said back, shtika, to be quiet. Shh. Quiet. He says, I'm going to start the whole world over again. So my Rabbi Rav Walken said, it sounds like Hashem is mad at the Malachim. He's upset with the Malachim. He doesn't like the way that they are questioning him. And so he says, be quiet, and I'm going to start the whole world over again if you don't stop. He says, but it doesn't really make sense because Hashem is not immature and he's not a child. He created the Malachim. He knows what they know. He knows what they don't know. So what's really the deeper message here? He was not saying out of anger, but actually he was saying very logically, be quiet, because the only way you can understand what's taking place is through silence, like Rabbi Nachman says. And Hashem said to them that I will start the whole world over again, not because I'm upset, but because unless you're with me for every single step of the creation, from the beginning until Rabbi Akiva being flayed alive, you cannot know how this is for the good. And I remember when I heard that, it was so powerful for me that I started to really realize, why should I think that I need or could understand what's taking place? Why should I understand the fact that I was just in a psych ward? Why should I understand the pain and terror that I went through for the past 3 years? Why should I understand all of the skeletons in my closet? Why should I understand all of the events that take place in the world? I would really have to be with Hashem from every event, from the beginning of creation until from before creation until now, to really understand how the whole thing fits. It's just like the Megillah, right? If you stop in the middle of the Megillah, you're not Yotze the mitzvah. It's like you never read it. If you're at the very end of the story, you're almost at the very end, and you stop in the middle and you say something and you come back in, you're not Yotze the mitzvah. You have to start over again. Why? Because if you do not go from the beginning until the end and you hear every single step, you will not see how Hashem is good. You won't see how Hashem is kind. But if you get through every step and you follow silently and you hear at the end what happens, you will see the greatest geula. You'll see the greatest redemption. You'll see how Hashem is Tov Meitiv, the one who's good and who does good. But that's only at the very end. Just like Emet is the truth. Hashem is the truth. Aleph, Mem, Taf. First, middle, last letter of the alphabet. You can only get to the truth when you know the beginning, the middle, and the end. If you try anywhere in between, you're not going to get the truth. You're not going to get the good. So with us in our lives, and this is the second part of the lesson that we're getting right now, that you need bitul of the seichel. You need to completely nullify your own personal intellect and to stop thinking that you should be able to understand what's taking place in your life. And to say, I don't understand. And then Rabbi Nachman says, paradoxically, as soon as you let go, you actually increase your ability to know what's happening, and Hashem will give it to you as a gift. Okay? Final point is this. Rav Natan, he wrote many letters. It's actually been 200 years now, I believe, since he wrote these letters, which are called Alim Ken, exactly. And he says there many times to his son and also to his other students that whenever they were suffering, whenever they were going through something, he used to get a lot of chizuk from this lesson of Rabbi Nachman, that he would say the story of Abraham and Yitzchak, that Hashem told Abraham to go slaughter his son, which obviously for any normal father is the most horrifying experience that you could possibly imagine. And if you happen to be like Avraham Avinu, the kindest, most loving person who ever existed, you could amp that up by, however many percentage you want, and I'm sure you're on the one. So how did Abraham get through that period in his life? How do we get through those periods in our life? That Hashem is clearly putting us through a nisayon. We feel like it's way above our pay grade. How do we get through that? So the pasuk says that Abraham was 3 days away, and he saw the mountain from afar. Saw it from afar. Rabbi Nachman says, why do we need to learn? Who cares? Who cares at the mountain? He saw it from afar 3 days away. The answer is that was the only way he can get to a Kedat Yitzchak. Because if he would have watched Yitzchak carrying that wood for 3 days, he never would have been able to bring him there. But by seeing the end, the place that the Beit HaMikdash was promised, the place of the Geula, the place of the redemption, the place of the good that Hashem promised at the end. That I don't know how this is going to lead to there, but I know for sure that that has to happen. So if that has to happen and this has to get to there, I'm going to go look there. And eventually this is going to get there. And the practical lesson for us in our life is don't focus on right now. Because the Zohar says that this is Alma Deshika. This is a world of lies. And Rabbi Nachman says, Chas v'shalom, that you should focus on what's happening here. Because not only will you not understand what's going on, your eyes are deceiving you. What's the reason when you say Shema Yisrael, you cover your eyes? Why can't you just say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, with full faith? Why can you only be Yotze this mitzvah? Why can you only feel real Emunah when you close your eyes and you hold tight? Because the world is a sheker. It's lies. And there's no way to believe in the truth if you see lies. So you have to close your eyes to this world. There's a beautiful teaching in the Zohar that I love, where he says that there is the most beautiful woman that you ever met, you ever saw in your life. What's so beautiful about her? Does she have the newest bag, Prada, what, I don't know, the other ones? I haven't seen these things for a long time. Whatever, you can list all the other ones. The most beautiful bag, the most beautiful clothes, the best makeup, she's the best looking. No. You know why she's so beautiful? Because she has no eyes, the Zohar says. Sounds pretty scary. Something from a horror movie, maybe. Definitely not the most beautiful girl I ever saw. However, there's a very deep lesson here. When does a Jew experience the beauty of the world? The Zohar says when she closes her eyes to the world, then she's the most beautiful. Only when you close your eyes to this world can you actually see what's going on. Rabbi Nachman says this is actually organized into your genetic makeup. Because when you cry because of the pain that you're going through, Rabbi Nachman says you'll notice that your eyes start to close. The more intense your tears get, the more your eyes close. What's the reason? And you get relief when you cry, right? You ever had a good cry? It feels amazing. And the more intense the cry, the better you feel. So you think it's because of the endorphin kick, because you learn that in school or whatever. But the real reason Rabbi Nachman says you're feeling better, and it's so beautiful, is because your eyes are closing. And because your eyes are closing to this world, you're kicking into Emunah. You're kicking into faith. And in that place, everything is good. That's the beautiful maiden who has no eyes. So in this time of tremendous difficulty and adversity that we're all going through these difficulties in our life, what is the way that you can experience tranquility in the state of chaos? You need to be able to close your eyes to this world. Okay? Good. And that's looking from afar. How do you close your eyes to the world? Everybody can say, great, don't focus on the problem. Very good. How do I actually do that? The way is by focusing on the end, by focusing on Geula, by focusing on redemption. Thinking about those times in the past that Hashem put you in difficult situations and He took you out before. I have a few in my bag that all the time, it's almost every day. I have to recall these things that took place in my life, and these things give me chizuk. These things give me encouragement. You know, just as an example, I was at the Shabbat table with my wife's family, and I was telling, like I often do, I feel like all the time speaking my Hebrew to do, no matter who I talk to. So if you hear me teach again, please don't get sick of it. It's for a good reason. It's very important, and it's going to change your life. My father's other daughter, she's been going through some mental health stuff, depressive stuff she never felt before. Baruch Hashem, she just had her 4th child, so obviously the doctors attributed to postpartum depression. However, according to the eyes of Emunah, it's because Hashem wants her to be. So what's the reason why Hashem would ever want His daughter to be depressed? What's the reason why Hashem would ever want to put His child through anything? It's usually because He wants to hear from you. So I started to explain to her that one of the reasons, because she said she doesn't know what to talk about. So I gave her a story, which is a true story, from about a year ago, that I just started this organization called Sion Breslov Project. So this is the organization that me and my students started together. I teach Rabbi Nachman's teachings. And Baruch Hashem, this is the first time we're teaching those teachings in the land of Israel. Rabbi Nachman says every Jew should yearn and desire to live in the land. He says it's impossible to reach your spiritual potential unless you live in the land of Israel. So that's the reason why I'm here, with Hashem's help. And I remember after we started the organization, I started to have so many problems, difficulties within the organization. First of all, I'm the least capable person of running an organization. I have a diagnosed learning disability. I have no ability to organize or to lead structural entities. I'm terrible at making things happen at a certain time and in a certain way. So literally, like everything that you could possibly look for as a reason to check somebody off, not to take them as the leader and the next CEO of your organization. I have all of those things in spades, but I live with Hashem. And I said, I'm going to succeed because you want me to succeed, not because I am able to succeed. And on top of that, I had my own stuff going on. So there's a lot of difficulties. I was trying to help people. And obviously, as a person who cares enough to make an organization, I care enough also to feel bad and to be in pain when I hear other people's trials and tribulations. I was carrying a lot on my shoulders. And I was about to have my Gemara shiur. I was in Kollel in New York. And I was just like, I cannot listen to a Gemara lesson right now. I have to go put my head down. And I remember I went downstairs. I locked myself in the room. I turned the lights off. Before I went to sleep, I said, Hashem, I'm doing this for you. I made this organization for you. I'm trying to help your children for you. I said, I need more help. You need to help. I can't do it anymore. This is the best that I can do, and I need a lot more help. And I fell asleep in the middle of the prayer. And I started to have a very vivid dream of me being in a very dark place with people who are suffering tremendously. And I remember the people in the dream, they came to me and they said, David, how did you leave this place? How did you leave this place? And I remember it in the dream, and I'm not making this up. I screamed back, Rabbeinu sha'ag b'kol gadol. That Rabbeinu screamed in a loud voice, Ein shum yeyosh ba'olam kol. There's no such thing as despair in the world. I remember I was shaking and screaming in the dream. There's no such thing as despair in the world at all. Don't believe that this is bad. Don't believe this is not going to get better. You have to believe it's going to get better. And I remember my rabbi, who was actually teaching at the same time I was dreaming upstairs, came to me in the dream after that, at the end of the dream, and said, David, you have to keep going. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. I remember when I told my wife this story on Shabbat, she goes, how is that chizuk? She said, you don't know what you're doing. I said, these are one of the things that are lost in translation. I said, no. He was saying, you don't know what you're doing. You're doing something very important. You're doing something very good. You're doing something very special. You don't know what you're doing. And I woke up from my dream. So, wow, I look very red. I just saw myself on the camera for the first time. Okay, all from Hashem. So what's the lesson from this? I told her, how did I get to the point that I had such a vivid, such a real dream, an answer, almost chizik from Hashem? I said, because I was honest with it. Rabbi Nachman says in the 9th Torah of Likutei Moharan, when you don't know how to talk to Hashem, the words are not coming out. Say the truth. What do you mean the truth? I'm saying that. No, you're not. Say the truth. Say the truth. Whatever that truth is. And no matter how raw that is, no matter how intense that is, no matter how painful that is, say the real truth. Because when you say the real truth, you give the ability for Hashem to give you an answer. But until you say that truth, and you're wondering, Hashem, how come you don't tell me? The reason is because you haven't said it yet. Rabbi Nachman says every word that comes out of your mouth is the vessel for your experiencing the answer that you're looking for. Without a vessel, you can't experience the light. Without the words, you do not have the kelim to experience the answer to your question. These three, and I'm going to give them again, okay? First one is beseder lo beseder. How do I feel tranquility within the difficulty and challenges of my life? I get the tranquility by linking up the davar, the matter, the event in my life, through davar, speech to Hashem. By talking to Hashem about the things that take place in my life, I'm acknowledging that what's happening is because of Hashem, and it's not happening stam. It's not just happening. That itself is going to cause my life to become beseder. One. Number two, that I bittul of my seichel. I stopped trying to understand why everything is taking place in my life, which is coming from a very, very subtle degree of arrogance. And I'm saying instead, I do not understand what's happening, and it's okay. Hashem, I hope one day you will let me understand. And it's that aspect of letting go of understanding that allows you to understand what's happening. That also brings tranquility and also takes a lot of pressure off and also makes much more sense than you should be able to understand whatever's taking place. And third and lastly, that you see from afar the mountain. Whatever is your state of geula, the thing that you've been waiting for your whole life, like for me, that I wait and yearn for the day that I'll finally be healthy, that I yearn and wait for the day that the Jewish people will have peace, that I wait and yearn for the day that we will have unity, that we stop judging each other, that we have joy with each other, that we're all dancing and singing at the Kota with the Mashiach, B'meravi Amenu, that we should all have it soon, that there should be no more war or violence. And Hashem promises us all these things are going to happen. That you have that in mind and you focus on that, because by focusing on that, you're going to be able to get to that point. It's like when you're going on a race, you're running. If you look right ahead of you, so it's going to feel like that race is going on forever and ever and ever and ever. But if, let's say, for instance, you look at the timer, like when you're on the treadmill, not that I know anything because I haven't exercised in years, but if you look at the treadmill and you see 5 minutes and you're watching and you have the goal in mind, so you're able to have power, and the closer you get to the end, even though it's hardest at that point, you actually find another gear kick in. And when you're a few seconds away, you don't feel anything. So too in our lives, that when you get closer and closer, just like a woman who's giving birth, this is what this is. Ikvetet de Mashiach. This is the birth pangs of Mashiach. That's what we're all experiencing, collectively, individually, on so many levels of our life. How do we get through? We're going to give birth. We're going to give birth. We're going to give birth. If you look at a woman before she gives birth, it looks like she's dying and it looks like the kid's dying. And really what's happening at that moment is she's about to give birth to brand new life. How come every woman does not go and check themselves in to the same place that I was right before they give birth to a child? Because they were told and they grew up thinking and believing and watching movies and television shows and hearing stories from their parents about how after 9 months you give birth to a child. So because they know that they're going to give birth, they can actually, I don't know if they enjoy the birth process, but they can get through it and get to the point that they get to the birth. Okay? So too for us. You need to look from afar at whatever is your state of geula. These are the three main ways I believe that a person can experience tranquility in chaos. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, whether it's about what I told you in the beginning, my personal transformation, to go from being an atheist to being a Breslauer Chassid, or whether it's about the actual lesson, or any other question that you might have while I'm in Beitar. So, any questions from the lesson? Or anybody online who wants to ask a question? Sometimes they have questions, yeah. Oh, right, they're on. Right. Okay. Anybody have a question online? No. Either this class was very, very understandable, or oh, it was okay. It was clear. Oh, Rabbi David Aaron. It's a great question. So after I met my wife, who's not my wife at the time, she realized very quickly that, like I said, I was not just secular, but I was actually anti everything that she believed in. She started to get nervous, and she told me that there's Orthodox Jewish rabbis, and I have many answers to these questions that I had. She saw very quickly that I had many philosophical questions. Anybody knows Temeni Jews, their emunah is very pashut. It's very, very simple. It's very strong, but it's not based on any type of answer or philosophy that they would give you in Esha Torah, one of these Balchuv yeshivas for Ashkenazi Jews. It's very, very simple for them. Even the ones that they don't wear kippah and they don't keep mitzvot, they believe in Hashem more than many religious Jews. Okay, so where am I going to get an answer to my question? She said that there's Orthodox rabbis you could speak to. So I didn't know what kiruv was at the time, but I went to California to UCLA, And I started to go to different organizations that were there and speaking to those rabbis. And I had all these questions. I didn't get any answers that necessarily I felt took away the questions in my heart, but I really connected to Shabbat, and I really connected to the love, and I really connected to the non-judgmental part, and how it felt like there was something genuine here, something that was real in a world that was very, very fake. And I stuck around for a year, going to Shabbatons every single week on Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat. After 1 year, I think that the rabbis were getting very nervous about me because nothing was working out. They were pushing me to this rabbi and this rabbi, hoping someone was going to give me the right thing. Finally, one of them said, here's a book. I learned from this person in Israel. I think you might connect to him. And I said, sure. I started reading it. That was the night that I had that experience. And literally, as soon as I started reading this book, I had an epiphany that Hashem existed. I couldn't sleep all night. And I started keeping mitzvot almost right away after.
What's the book?
I'm sure there's some type of shorish neshamas thing going on over there, but what I could think about practically is it was the first time in my life I ever saw Kabbalah and Hasidut. And they have answers to a lot of questions that are philosophical that I dealt with. It wasn't all the questions, but it was a lot of them. And just being introduced to Hasidut, I felt for the first time Hashem existed, and it's even now to this day, it's the same thing. I could literally hear lessons from many different rabbis in many different orientations. It could be beautiful, it could be true, it could be emet, it could be amazing. But if it's not Hasidut, I don't feel Hashem there. So it's just, I found that actually, it's interesting. My whole life I was told I was from Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania. This is what I was told. A few years ago, or a couple of years ago, I got a text from my cousin saying, hey, I saw you're on this website. You should go on ancestry.com and check out your ancestry. I'm like, okay, this is weird. This feels like it's from Hashem. It's right after Shabbat ended. I have not spoken to this woman in probably 20 years. I should just check it out. And I found out on there that all of my dad's side for generations and generations is not from Czechoslovakia. They're not from Hungary. They're not from Russia. They're all from Ukraine in a city called Horodenker, which if anybody knows, Rabbi Nachman was named after his grandfather. His name was Nachman. He was the Rebbe of Horodenker. And my family was there for hundreds of years. And actually, even before this happened, I came to a Hasidic Rebbe. His name is the Biala Rebbe. And I saw him here. I was encouraged to go see him here before I started the organization to see if it was time yet. And he told me there that when I told him my story, he said that your grandfather was a student of the Baal Shem Tov. That's the reason why you connect so much to the teachings. And I was like, what are the chances of that? And now actually pretty good. So amazing story. Yeah.
So when you say that as opposed to answering really
All the questions.
Philosophical questions, the experience and finding.
Very good. Beautiful. So very good point. The question for anybody online, there are really people, just so you guys know. I don't just do this because I have a tremendous low self-esteem and I'm trying to pump myself up. It'd be funny if it was a blank screen. It's real. So the question was, so it seems like in the end it was the experience of Hasidus that changed it for you and not the actual philosophical truth you may have been looking for. And the answer is yes, that's right. And actually, this was one of the main innovations of the Baal Shem Tov, which is completely different than the way that they utilize Torah and Kiruv. And I heard from Rav Yitzhak Ginsburg. If anybody knows, he's an amazing rabbi. He lives, I believe, So he says there that the Torah, the way that the Hasidus teaches the Torah, is not to try to prove that it's true, but to show you that it's beautiful. And he says, what's the point of that? Why is that so amazing? I mean, it sounds nice, but who cares? Why does that help connect people? The answer is because the faculty of beauty is that it attracts. When anybody sees anything that's beautiful, he or she automatically wants to come closer to it. So instead of trying to prove that it's true, which is always going to be limited, if you show that it's beautiful, that attracts the Jew, the Jewish neshama, to the thing itself, and the more beautiful it appears to that person, then the truth of it doesn't matter. That's what draws them in. And for sure, I could tell you, at least for American Jews, for secular American Jews, this is a much better approach than to try and go and prove that God exists, that really the world is 6 days and not thousands or millions or trillions of years. It's because it's really, you're leaning on Hashem at that point, and I feel like that's much better. Anybody else? There's a question online here. I'll tell you guys what they said. Yes, Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, the Chabad Rabbi. Yes, he's the Chabad Rabbi. Okay. I have a question. Do we know for sure that the Jews will merit in seeing the Mashiach? Don't we have to be serving Hashem collectively one certain way? Also, are we permitted, even in gratitude, to ask Hashem to help us in certain issues, especially when we are elevating His world? That is our purpose. Okay, so for sure Mashiach is coming. Will we be the generation to see Him? I really hope so. This has been a very difficult time. Most of our lives have been very difficult. All of the sages say that this is the final generation. I hope they have not been saying that for 2,000 years. That would be very, very discouraging. But if they haven't, then this is really a new phenomenon. Hopefully we will. The other question is, can we express gratitude to beseech Hashem to help us with certain issues, especially when we are trying to elevate His world? Yes, you can definitely ask Hashem for anything whenever you're doing anything, and this is really the point of the lesson, that you should. And I want to give a tip as well. There was a story of Rabbi Nachman. He had a student, I believe it was Rabbi Natan in the story, but I'm not sure. I have to look at it again. And he came in and his shirt was missing a button. Yeah, you guys heard this story? So it was missing a button, and he's like, oh man, I have to go to the tailor. Rabbi Nachman said, did you ask Hashem for the button? So he said, why would I ask Hashem for the button? I need to go to the tailor to get a button. Not that he didn't believe in Hashem, but what am I asking Hashem for the button for? I just go to the tailor. And he said, well, who told you that the tailor is going to be open? He goes, I don't know. And who said the tailor is going to have the button you need? I don't know. So pray for the button. Okay? So this is something, by the way, I had a class once, this is a funny story, with a lot of students, and I told them the story about the button. And then I taught a whole class for an hour. And I guess one of the kids there had been cogitating and ruminating on the story and waiting to find out where the button was, and couldn't think about the entire lesson. At the end, he got up from his chair and he screamed, where's the button? Did he ever find the button? I was like, I don't know. He thought the whole class was about finding the button. Yeah, where's the button? And he ran out. He was so overwhelmed emotionally. I didn't see him again after that. I think he might have went to go look for the button. So I'm sure he found the button. Okay, but I do this every day in my Hasidism, and especially in Israel, it's like not even hard to believe this. But ask Hashem for a hot shower. Don't just think it's gonna be hot. And ask Hashem that your car should work. Don't just think it's gonna work. Ask Hashem for these things that you think are basic and need to happen and should happen. The more that you ask Hashem for help with any of those things, the more it's going to be so clear to you that Hashem is running your life. And not just because I asked Hashem and now I see that it works, whoop-de-doo, but you're really going to feel, and Hashem is going to show you, I appreciate that you're making the effort to know that I am your Bore, that I am the creator of everything that takes place in the Manig, and I'm going to show you in even better ways and deeper ways that I'm the one who's running everything. Even today I was in my Yibodah. I said, Hashem, please, I say this a lot, give me a hug. I need a hug right now. Give me a kiss. I need a kiss. And I went back in. It really just means like, let me see that you're with me. And I was reading every year I try to do a different Perush on the Chumash. So I'm on the Or Chaim this year, which is really exciting. And the Or Chaim is now speaking about Parshat Shalach. And he says there about the weather, that when Moshe Rabbeinu was asking about Eretz Yisrael, he was trying to know about the weather itself. Is it beautiful weather? Is it amazing weather that's causing the vegetation and the fruits and everything to grow and the people there to be healthy and X, Y, and Z? And literally, as I started reading this, my wife's sister looks out the window, opens it up, and she goes, wow, look at the weather. She's like, Hashem Yibarach, unbelievably, Stabach Shema, like, right? And he's like, the weather, the Shemesh. She's like, I knew a few of these words that she was saying. And then I looked into the book and it was talking about the beauty of the weather and how Hashem creates, I don't know, it's like amazing. So just that, you would miss it. Like I could have saw her talking about the weather and the sun and thought nothing of it. And instead, I had yira because I felt Hashem answering my prayer at that moment. So this is another. Any last questions before we end the lesson? No? Okay.
Kalmus,
Yeah.
what's it called? Look at the chat.
Okay. I'm looking. Second. Many of us turn to Tefila in chaos. Rabbi Nachman discusses and places the importance of Tefila. Rabbi David Aaron has said in some of his shiurim that Hashem does not change his mind, and that is asking maybe more for us than him. What's the point of our Tefila? Oh, good question. So he's saying that Rabbi David Aaron apparently is speaking about this idea, like the Pasuk says, that I do not change. So if Hashem doesn't change, so then why are we praying to him? So the logical answer, says Rabbi David Aaron, is that you're not trying to change Hashem, you're trying to change you. So that's very beautiful. However, Rabbi Nachman says not like that. Okay? Rabbi Nachman says you actually change Hashem's mind. What does that mean? It doesn't matter. How does that make sense? It doesn't matter. The whole entire concept of Rabbi Nachman's Torah, of the Baal Shem Tov's Torah, is a childlike faith in the emunah of Hashem, the emunah of the Torah, the emunah of true tzaddikim, and the emunah in your real self. And that is that this type of question is, how could Hashem change his mind because you asked him? That theoretically doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't even cross your mind because you're a child and you're talking to your dad, and who cares? Okay? So for you, I'm nobody, and I'm not saying that Rabbi David Aaron's not right because I don't know anything. But I know for sure that Rabbi Nachman says that you need to beg and you need to plead with Hashem like a lawyer in a court case, which Jews are very familiar with. And you need to beg for whatever it is that you want, like a child to their father, until they give it to you. Now, if that doesn't sound like you're trying to change Hashem's mind, you're trying to make a difference. So I don't know what it is. And obviously, and I can say from my own life, that I have seen many miracles in my life since I started to pray like this. And those for sure looked like my prayer made a difference. Okay? So I'm sure there's a way that fits into Rabbi David Aaron's explanation. However, this is the main thing I would take. For sure, Rabbi Nachman says your ability to get your prayer answered is to believe that it can cause that change. If you don't believe it can cause that change, you will not have that change. Many people say, see it and you'll believe it. I like to say that Rabbi Nachman says, believe it and you'll see it. Okay. Any last questions? Okay. Everybody have an amazing, amazing night. Thank you for being a part of this first class in Eretz Yisrael. Bezrat Hashem, we should have more. Just so you guys know, this is the Tzion Bresla project. Bezrat Hashem will have more teachers in the future. And hopefully teaching around Israel and many more places. If you guys are interested, if you have that type of technological capabilities, we have a YouTube channel called Tzion Bresla Project. We have a website. Yoshua knows that information if you want it. Very nice to meet everybody here. Thank you so much. Everybody have an amazing, amazing week, amazing night. Thank you for everything.